A leaked clash pits Jungkook against Jimin after a manager's accusation, loyalty, secrets, and a weaponized edit threaten everything. Say it on record, Jungkook. Did you sell Jimin's hook behind his back? Introduction. Say that again? Jungkook answers, measured but edged. On record? You want a confession for a thing I didn't do. Manager Han places a phone on the table and taps the screen so the red light in the corner blinks. Documentation, he says, for compliance. Jimin breaks in. Stop playing courtroom. What exactly are you accusing him of? Han doesn't blink. Unauthorized disclosure of a protected composition. Jimin's vocal hook, the one tentatively titled Ashes Petals, appears in a brand's teaser montage posted at dawn. The metadata points to a session Jungkook attended off-calendar. There was a meeting, a transfer, a file, proof. Jungkook's reply is quick. I met a producer. I didn't transfer your song. My song, Jimin corrects. Eyes steady. Our promise. Han slides the phone forward. Listen, a clipped audio plays. A male voice says, the hook is clean. We can move. Another voice replies, send it tonight. Then the clip ends. Jimin turns to Jungkook. That sounds like you. It's 2 seconds, Jungkook says. Spliced. My words, their order wrong. So, you admit it's your voice, Han says, almost satisfied. And you asked for a send. You collaborated with an external brand whose contract conflicts with ours. Jimin's work appears in their teaser. Where did they get it? From the same person who cut that audio, Jungkook says. Whoever wants us to tear each other apart. Jimin's tone lowers. We said we'd be honest first, before anything leaks. That was the rule. Body. Han leans forward. Honesty is why we're here. The internet is eating this. The title cards read, Betrayal in the Studio. The clip of you two arguing is already at 6 million views. Headlines are writing themselves. You want this to spread without clarity? Jimin's phone vibrates across the table, brief and insistent. He ignores it. Walk me through your night, he says to Jungkook. No PR gloss, no manager listening, just us. Jungkook nods once. I met producer Minjae after rehearsal. He asked for feedback on a texture we discussed months ago, breath layering on a chorus. He said he had a new brand project and wanted to talk sonics. I told him I can't share any of your files. We referenced the shape of a hook using my own humming over a scratch beat. No stems, no exports, nothing from your session. Jimin looks at Han. Do you have footage from that studio? Han taps the phone again. We have security logs that show Jungkook entering Minjae's annex at 11:12 p.m. and leaving at 12:03 a.m. We don't monitor inside rooms. Then what is this? Jimin asks, pointing to the phone. Who recorded that clip? Han's voice go cooler. A source. A source who edits, Jungkook says. Convenient. Convenient is you forgetting the clause about third-party briefings, Han counters. You bypassed communications, you exposed us. Jungkook folds his hands, breathing through it. I didn't touch Jimin's files. Someone wants me to look like I did. Jimin's words come slow. Why would anyone want that? Because I refused a solo brand last month, Jungkook says. The offer came with conditions. I turned it down. The rep said, we'll find another angle. Maybe this is their angle. Han lifts a brow. Speculation. Or motive, Jimin says, eyes returning to the phone. Who benefits if Jungkook and I fracture on camera? Han's lips thin. Narratives don't change facts. That teaser's hook resembles yours, Jimin. The phrase lengths, the vowel arcs. If it isn't your actual take, it's a reconstruction. Which raises a second possibility. Someone with access rebuilt it. That circle includes composers, engineers, and yes, artists who were present. I wasn't present for your last vocal date, Jungkook says, turning to Jimin. I was across town doing choreography revisions. Jimin nods. He was, I remember, Han. The studio logs will show it. Han shrugs lightly. We'll get them. Meanwhile, public damage is done. The leaked confrontation shows you two at odds. Brands are calling. Fans are demanding statements. Then say this, Jimin says. We're handling it internally. We're verifying sources. No one throws us under a bus while we're still on it. Han's look sharpens. A statement like that invites more scrutiny. Silence invites speculation. Speed is leverage. If Jungkook admits a lapse, we can pivot. Admit what? Jungkook asks. Breathing in the wrong room? Han places a printed contract on the table. Clause 14.2. No discussion of unreleased materials with external entities without written clearance. You discussed a hook. I discussed a technique, Jungkook says. Breath texture. Not melody. Not lyric. Not your hook, Jimin. Jimin watches them, then speaks again, softer. Tell me the part you're not saying. Jungkook looks at him. There's one thing. Minjae mentioned he'd heard a rumor that your hook was in a brand deck already. He said he'd seen a slide with ashes, petals typed under a waveform. He wanted to know if we'd pre-release a snippet through them. I told him no. He smiled like it didn't matter. Han's eyes narrow. How would Minjae see a brand deck? Ask him, Jungkook says. Or ask the brand. Jimin exhales, thinking. Minjae's never burned me before. But he's freelance. He's in a lot of rooms. Han taps the phone a third time and another short clip plays. A dry voice, Minjae saying. They're hungry for something that sounds like yours. Another cut. Jungkook saying, we can talk timing. The clip ends. Han looks up. Timing, Jungkook? Timing for a reveal that would be ours, Jungkook says. If we chose it, not theirs. Jimin scratches the table with a finger and then stops. Minjae's voice was clean. No room noise, no distance. That isn't a hallway grab. That's from inside. Han nods. Which implies someone in the room recorded and shared it. Jungkook's jaw tightens. Minjae asked me to put my phone in a tray by the door. He said it was a no distraction rule. Whose tray? Jimin asks. His, Jungkook says. Magnetic with charging pads. Jimin looks at Han again. So we have a meeting with a freelance producer. A tray that collects phones. A perfect clip. And a teaser posted hours later. If Jungkook wanted to secretly sell out my hook, why would he do it in a room that cleansely records him, then walk into rehearsal like nothing happened? Han is silent for a moment. Then, people fascinate me with how they explain away simple breaches. Jimin doesn't flinch. People fascinate me with how they guide outcomes and call it compliance. Jungkook leans closer. If you're protecting the company, protect the truth. Get the raw of that clip. Get the room security cam if there is one. Get the brand's metadata. If my voice is there, it's because someone put it there. Han looks between them. Fine. I'll request raw audio from the source. Jimin pounces. Who is the source? No disclosure, Han replies. You know that. Jimin nods, once. Then I'll call Minjae. He dials. The line picks up with a click. Jimin, Minjae says, tone cautious. I figured you'd call. You were in a room with Jungkook last night, Jimin says. A clip leaked. Did you record it? No, Minjae says, quick. Absolutely not. I don't do that. You asked him to put his phone in a tray, Jimin says. Who else had a phone? Minjae hesitates. The brand rep. She calls herself Ryan. She said the tray was for focus, but she kept her smartwatch. Jimin's eyes flick to Han. A smartwatch. Han lifts his chin. Possible, but quality would be poor. Not if the room had a Bluetooth mic paired, Jungkook says. Minjae, did you have anything paired? Minjae falters. I had a test mic connected earlier. For an intern demo. I forgot to disconnect. Jungkook closes his eyes for a beat. There it is. Han steeples his fingers. We'll subpoena the brand if necessary. Do it, Jimin says. And I want the studio's device logs. Minjae rushes in. I'll send logs. I swear I didn't share anything. Jimin, you know me. I know you until I don't, Jimin says, then softens. Send the logs now. The call ends. Silence gathers, held taut by the ticking in the corner of the room. Han speaks first. Even with logs, public temperature is boiling. Fans are split. One camp says Jungkook leveraged your trust. Another says management is scapegoating. Sponsors ask whether to hold assets. This is a fire. Then stop pouring oil, Jimin says. Our statement goes like this. We are verifying manipulated audio and unauthorized recordings. We stand together while we investigate. Han looks at Jungkook. That's your stance? That's my stance, Jungkook says. And if you need a line from me, use this. I didn't share Jimin's work. I won't let anyone turn us into content. Han's gaze lingers. You realize if Minjae's logs don't clear you, you'll look worse. Then get the truth faster, Jungkook says. And while you do, give us the internal camera feeds from the corridor outside the annex. Han shakes his head slightly. We don't hand internal security to artists. Jimin answers for him. You'll hand it to legal, and legal will share what helps us understand how a brand rep walked out with a cut that looks perfect on the internet. Han studies him. You are certain you want to do this together? Jimin finally looks at Jungkook again. We don't survive apart. A knock, 2 beats, and the door opens. PR director Soyeon steps in with a laptop under her arm. I've drafted 3 statements, she says. 1 apologetic, 1 deflective, 1 assertive. Which do you want? Assertive, Jimin says. But without attacking anyone. We name the manipulation and the unauthorized recording. We commit to facts. Soyeon nods and turns the laptop around. On the screen is a draft. We are aware of an unauthorized recording and an edited clip circulating online. We are reviewing studio device logs and brand metadata. We ask for patience while we verify facts. Jungkook and Jimin are aligned and working together. Add 1 line, Jungkook says. We condemn any attempt to weaponize private conversations. Soyeon types. Done. Han watches, weighing something. There's a risk, he says. If the public thinks we're crying edit every time, we lose credibility long term. We're not crying anything, Jimin says. We're naming what happened, and we're going to prove it. Han stares back, then slides his phone into his pocket. Legal will reach out to Min Jae and the brand. I'll authorize the requests. Good, Jimin says. Because I'm going to the annex myself. Jungkook, come with me. Han raises a hand. No, stay off that floor until legal clears it. Then legal can meet us there, Jimin replies. Soyeon interjects, calm but urgent. One more thing. The leaked video, the one of this room, it's your argument from 20 minutes ago. Someone in the hallway caught the audio. It's already been cut with the brand teaser. The narrative is tight. If you step into the annex now and someone films it, that becomes chapter 2. Jungkook nods slowly. So we move smart, not loud. Jimin glances at him, and then at Soyeon. What's your recommendation? Record your own conversation. So, Yeon says. 1 clean sit-down between you 2, on your channel. No drama, just clarity. Then let legal do the hunting. Control what you can. Han scoffs. You want them to feed the beast? I want them to starve the beast of speculation, so, Yeon says. 5 minutes on camera from you 2 could cool 1,000,000 comments. Jimin looks at Jungkook. Can you do that? I can, Jungkook says. But I'm adding something. We show the studio's device logs on screen the second we have them. Nothing proprietary, just timestamps and pairings. People can read. Han opens his mouth, closes it, then nods once. Fine. If legal approves. Soyeon is already typing a message. I'll prep a set. Neutral background. No frills. Jimin pockets his phone and stands. Before we do that, I want a direct line to Min Jae. If he's clean, he helps us track Rion and that paired mic. The phone vibrates again. It's Min Jae with a text. Sending logs. Also, Ryan is not on the brand's employee list. She's a contractor from a third-party agency called Signal Crest. Han reads over Jimin's shoulder. Signal Crest. Jungkook says it aloud. Who hired them? Han's face barely moves. Sometimes agencies are hired through umbrella vendors. We'll find the route. Jimin's answer is instant. Find it now. The laptop chimes and Soyeon opens the email. A spreadsheet appears, device IDs, connection times, and 1 unfamiliar MAC address labeled SC Watch. 1. Connecting at 11:14 p.m. Disconnecting at 11:57 p.m. There, Jungkook says. A watch. Soyeon points to another line. And a Bluetooth mic, Annex, mic, BT, paired at 11:15 p.m. That's Min Jae's test gear. Han's posture shifts, the first crack in his certainty. With this, we can compel Signal Crest to produce the recording device. If they stonewall, we escalate. Jimin turns to Jungkook. We're going to beat this with facts. Jungkook nods. And after that, we find out who wanted this enough to sit in a room with us, smile, and steal. Han looks at both of them. You 2 are unified? Jimin doesn't hesitate. Yes. Han sighs, then finally extends an olive branch that almost sounds like a concession. Then the official line is unity and verification. I'll update legal. So, Yeon, draft is good. Prepare the set. Soyeon closes the laptop with a firm click. You'll have a teleprompter if you want it. No, Jimin says. We'll speak from memory. Pull your video, or we release the uncut room audio, a voice says from the speakerphone 10 minutes before they're supposed to record the sit-down. Jimin answers first. Who is this? Someone who can make this worse, the caller replies. Signal crest. Liaison. Consider this a courtesy. Jungkook doesn't blink. Release it. Hand snaps. Don't grandstand. Jimin cuts across both of them. If the uncut audio exists, we want it now. You'll have it, the voice says, cool as paperwork. When your unity statement disappears, when you retract the word manipulated, play nice, and this burns out. Soyeon leans toward the phone. And if we don't, then the internet hears every second of that room, the voice says. And a second clip from a different room, the one where your manager floated a story about containment and pinning it on a lapse. Hansyeon tightens. Name yourself. The name on the invoice is Ryan, the voice says. But names are cheap. Choices aren't. Decide. The line goes dead. Silence. Then Jimin speaks. We go live anyway. Han turns on him. You do that, you trigger them. I'm done moving under threat, Jimin says. We speak the truth, then legal hunts. Jungkook nods. And if they drop the audio, we analyze it on air. We walk people through what's cut, what's staged. We control the frame. Han exhales a hard breath. You're betting on time you don't have. Fine. But the script don't improvise legal claims. Say we're verifying. That's it. Jimin lifts the printed draft and hands it back. No script. We talk like humans. Soyeon motions them down the corridor to the makeshift set. A neutral wall, 2 chairs, 1 camera. No frills, as promised. Tech stands by. No teleprompter. Phone's off. Roll when you're ready, so. Yeon says, voice steady. Keep it tight. They sit. The red light clicks on. Jimin opens. We're here because an edited clip made a private conversation into a weapon. We won't fight each other for someone else's views. Jungkook follows. We didn't share Jimin's song with a brand. We didn't license anything. We'll show logs and timestamps when legal clears them. Until then, don't let a cut clip tell you who we are. He gestures lightly toward a tablet resting on the table. We asked for device logs from the studio annex. We received them. He doesn't hold the screen up. He names what's on it. A watch paired at 11:14 p.m. A Bluetooth mic at 11:15. My phone in a tray. I didn't pair. Someone else did. Jimin picks up the thread. We also learned the liaison who arranged the room uses the name Ryan and claims a connection to an agency called Signal Crest. We'll pursue that through legal channels. We will not speculate on roles or motives. We will not feed conspiracy. We will follow proof. They exchange a look that doesn't need pageantry. Jimin closes. We're aligned. We'll be back with specifics. Until then, don't mistake noise for narrative. We own our work and our word. The red light goes dark. Soyeon steps in. That's the tone. We publish now. Han checks his phone as he half turns toward the hall. If they drop something, we'll... His phone vibrates. He freezes. Then he hands it to Soyeon, who taps play. Audio fills the small room. Minjae's voice asking for texture. Jungkook discussing timing. Jimin's tone asking, what exactly are you accusing him of? And then a second sequence that makes everyone still. Han's own voice, from earlier that morning, speaking to someone outside this room. We can contain this if we move fast. A clean lapse apology from him and a pledge to support the group will calm sponsors. Soyeon stops the clip. Context? Han rubs a hand over his face. I was gaming scenarios with PR. That's my job. Containment is not conspiracy. Jimin watches him. Say that on camera. Han straightens. I don't perform for comment sections. Jungkook's tone is dry. They're performing for you. Soyeon holds up a finger. We need a second upload quick. A short note with the two of you clarifying that managers and PR explore multiple options, including unlikely ones, and that brainstorming is not guilt. Otherwise, this turns into manager scapegoat, and the story drags. Jimin nods. We'll do it, but I want something in return. Han glances over. What? Procurement, Jimin says. Who hired Signal Crest? Who authorized the liaison to sit in our room? No more vague vendors and umbrella contracts. Names. Han hesitates a fraction. Those trails aren't public. Pull them, Jungkook says. We're done guessing. So Yeon texts legal as she speaks. I'm looping in procurement and compliance now. They record the addendum brief, firm, no theatrics, and post it. The first video is already climbing into millions of views. The second rides in its wake. Comments split down predictable fault lines, then fracture again as the second clip Han's PR brainstorming spreads with captions that call it proof and gotcha. The wildness is immediate and exhausting. None of them comment. They gather in a small conference room with glass on all sides, a table in the middle, and a pile of chargers like a makeshift altar. Legal arrives. Counsel Kim is precise, unsentimental, and armed with a tablet. We have the annex logs, she says. We have Minjae's emails, and the brand's scheduling platform confirming the booking under an umbrella vendor called KTC Media, which subcontracted to Signal Crest. Who signed? Jimin asks. Deputy Manager CEO signed the umbrella retainer last quarter, Kim replies. Signal Crest came in as a recommended technical vendor. There's no signature from Mr. Han authorizing Signal Crest specifically. Han doesn't flinch. Because I didn't bring them in. Jungkook leans in. Who did? Kim scrolls. The KTC account manager flagged Signal Crest as a room services provider, audio cleanup, device security, on-site support. There's a list of rotating names. Ryan appears on 3 call sheets in the last 6 weeks. Device security, Jimin repeats. That's rich. Kim continues. We sent a preservation notice to Signal Crest. They've acknowledged it. We've also sent an offer to Minjae for forensic review of his gear. He consented. So we move, Jungkook says. What's the fastest way to show the public that the so-called uncut is also cut? Kim's answer is crisp. Comparative timelines. We map every device handshake to the audio. If there's a gap, we highlight it. If the mic jumps levels inconsistently, we flag it. If their uncut begins before the watch pairs, we have a mismatch. Facts first, always. Han folds his arms. While you map, sponsors will ask for distance. Jimin looks up. Distance from what? From the story, Han says. They don't want to be in the blast radius. They'll request you pause brand mentions. Then we pause, Jimin says. We won't sell a lie to protect a partnership. No one's brand is worth our names. The door opens without a knock. Minjae steps in, eyes tired, hands empty. He doesn't sit until Jimin nods. I brought the logs, he says. You saw them. Kim gestures to a seat. We'll take your devices for imaging. Minjae places his phone on the table like an admission. I need to say something before you dig. Jungkook's voice is even. Say it all. Minjae breathes out. Signal Crest pitched me the room services package 2 months ago. They offered great rates if I booked through KTC. They said rooms would be clean and secure. I didn't ask enough questions. I wanted to look competent. I let them handle the trays, the mic tests, the no distractions policy. I thought it made me look pro. I made it easy for them to take whatever they wanted. Jimin's answer isn't loud. Who is they to you? Minjae looks at Kim. There's a man who called himself Director Park. He said he managed talent risk. He said brands get nervous. He said the company gets nervous. He used words like containment and predictive narrative. I didn't understand. I let him run cables. Han stares. No one named Park works in management. Kim's fingers dance over the screen. Signal Crest has a contractor list. No Park. But there's a Park at KTC, listed as a senior coordinator. It could be him. We'll find out. Jungkook's gaze stays on Minjae. Did you get paid? Minjae shakes his head. Not cash. Access. They promised me more brand rooms, more gigs. They dangled a long-term contract if I could manage talent schedules smoothly. I thought it meant logistics. I was stupid. Jimin absorbs it like a blow he expected. I believed you, Minjae. I know, Minjae says small. I made it possible for them to make you doubt him. I can't take that back. Kim breaks in before the gravity sinks deeper. We'll take your consent for full device imaging and cloud backup access. Minjae signs without hesitation. Take everything. Han's phone buzzes again. He checks it, then looks at Kim. Signal Crest just posted their uncut. Kim nods once. Good. Now we have something to match against. Soyeon wheels in a laptop and casts the audio into the room. The track begins before the posted time by 30 seconds. You can hear Minjae's low setup chatter, then the breath texture talk, then Jungkook saying, timing, then a long, convenient silence where context should live, then Han's morning containment call played like a villain's monologue. The captions spike every ambiguous phrase. The comments sprint past like sparks. The audio ends with a triumphant music sting someone added for effect. Jimin looks at Kim. Find the seams. Kim points to 3 spots on a waveform she generates in seconds. Notice this. Background tone shifts at 0. 42. That's a cut. Volume normalization slams at 1. 11 another cut. And here. A duplication of room tone for a 10-second stretch copy. Pasted. They wanted uncut to feel smooth. It isn't. Jungkook leans toward the screen. Can we show that publicly without exposing anything proprietary? Kim nods. We can abstract. No raw frequencies. Just the pattern. We can say, this is what a cut looks like. This track has 3. Han taps the table. Do it now. Do it with a calm voice. And no knives. Jimin turns to Minjae. You'll go on record? Yes, Minjae says. I'll say I let the room be set by strangers. I'll say, I'm sorry. I'll say I was played. Say you'll testify, Kim adds. Because you will. He nods again. I will. So-yeon glances at the clock. We can push a short explainer within the hour. You two voice it. Minimal flair. Straight to the point. Jungkook looks at Jimin. You want to do this together? Or split lines? Together, Jimin says. No splits. They step into the recording alcove again. No softening now. Jimin opens. Signal Crest released what they call the uncut audio. We asked a forensic team to analyze it. Here's what a cut looks like. The screen shows a neutral diagram with simple peaks and markers. No proprietary detail. Just the shape. We found 3 cuts in their uncut. We'll share our full report when it's complete. Jungkook continues. We also learned the room was prepared by a vendor chain involving KTC Media and Signal Crest. We didn't authorize any hidden recording. Our producer, Minjae, consented to a forensic review of his devices. He'll cooperate. With legal. They keep it plain. They post. The comments swing and snarl and praise and accuse, and none of it changes what they can control. The point is not to win the internet. The point is to lay a trail anyone can follow later when the noise is cooled. As the clip climbs, Deputy Manager Seo walks in without waiting to be called. He closes the door and stays standing. You asked for procurement, he says to Jimin. I have it. Then say it, Jimin replies. Seo places a file on the table. The umbrella contract to KTC was mine. I selected Signal Crest from their list for 3 brand rooms because they promised talent calming and device neutralization. Now I believe those phrases were euphemisms. I didn't intend harm. I cut corners. That's on me. Han's voice is flat. Why didn't you vet them? Seo meets his look. Because vetting is slower than pressure. Because I was told to deliver no drama rooms under budget. By who? Jimin asks. Seo's mouth hardens for a beat, then releases. By a strategy memo signed by 3 people, none of whom imagined this outcome. I won't name them in this room. Legal will see the list. Kim nods, already reaching for the file. We will. Seo turns to Jungkook. You were never on the plan. You were the variable they didn't control. Then why did someone sit across from me and record? Jungkook asks. Because variables make good content, Seo says, tired. And because vendors who promise calming will always bring a camera no one sees. Jimin answers him with a line that feels like a verdict. We're not calming targets. We're people with work. Seo accepts it with a stiff nod. You'll get my resignation letter by end of day. Han doesn't let him off that clean. You'll stay through the investigation. We need your memory, not your exit. Seo seems ready to argue, then thinks better of it. I'll do what legal requires. He leaves the room with shorter steps than he came in. Kim opens the file, skims, and slows on a page. There's a Signal Crest internal memo here, she says. It mentions a pilot program for narrative management. It uses phrases like pre-editing likely friction into digestible arcs. It reads like an instruction sheet for manufacturing conflict. Jimin's voice is controlled. So this wasn't an accident. Kim's answer is cool. No, It was a model. Jungkook turns to her. We make the model fail. How? Han asks. Almost cynical. By refusing the arc, Jungkook says. They wanted betrayal, apology, separation. We won't give them any of it. Jimin looks at him. We give them audit, report, and a boring truth. We stayed together. Boring doesn't trend. Han mutters. Jimin shakes his head. It doesn't have to. It just has to be true when the dust settles. The door opens again. It's not a manager this time. It's Jimin's older cousin on a video call that Soyeon patches in because the family chat has been ringing off the hook. The cousin doesn't waste breath. Is he okay? He is, Jimin says, glancing at Jungkook. We're handling it. The cousin doesn't soften. You don't owe the world a spectacle. You owe yourselves a plan. The rest will chatter. They always do. Jimin nods once. That's the plan. She signs off with a fast, fierce good. And the line cuts. It lands like an anchor in the room. Hours compress into actions. Legal sends letters. Forensics begins imaging. Procurement produces chains. PR filters requests into piles they'll ignore and piles they'll answer with the same sentence. We're verifying. We'll share when we can. At dusk, Min-jae returns with a folder and a look that says he found something ugly. The watch wasn't just passively paired, he says. It was actively initiated by an app labeled Room Quiet. It piggybacks on Bluetooth mics and syncs to a cloud bucket with a rotating key. I don't know who wrote it, but it's not standard. Kim's focus tightens. Can you replicate that pairing? I can, Min-jae says. If we're in the annex, if the mic is live. Jungkook looks at Jimin. Then we go to the annex. Tonight. Han raises a palm. Absolutely not. We don't stage a reenactment in a building full of phones. Soyeon cuts in. We don't stage anything. We demonstrate an exploit to legal in a sealed room with security posted. We document it. We don't post it. Kim nods. That we can do. They move as a small strike team. Security clears the annex. Doors closed. Devices tagged and sealed. One camera set to record for chain of custody. No streams. Min-jae powers up the test mic. The app connects like a key sliding into a lock. Numbers scroll. A packet leaves. Kim reads the hash aloud for the record. The room's quiet enough to hear their breathing shift when the transfer completes. Min-jae shows the log. See the endpoint? It's a URL with a randomized subdomain. If we subpoena that host, we'll get the bucket. If we get the bucket, we'll see not just our room, but every room they touched. Kim is already drafting. We'll file tonight. They walk out without ceremony. No triumphant music, no speech. Just a task completed, and the next one set in motion. The hallway looks the same as 100 other hallways. The difference is the list in their heads. Host, bucket, app author, vendor list, KTC chain, Signal Crest contract, deputy manager CO's memo, director park at KTC, and whatever else hides under euphemisms. Back in the conference room, the mood shifts from defensive to deliberate. Jimin turns to Jungkook when the others drift toward their computers. I need something from you, and I don't want to wait until the end to ask it. Ask now, Jungkook says. If there's a piece of this that touches your private fear, the one you never name, say it. Jimin replies. Not for the camera, for me. Jungkook doesn't dodge. My fear is that I'm only trusted until I'm too loud. That if I take a meeting for sound, someone will call it ambition. That if I say no to a brand, they'll say I did it wrong anyway. That I'll fail you in public without meaning to. Jimin's answer is immediate. You're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to take meetings for sound. You're allowed to say no. Failing me requires intent. You didn't intend any of this. Jungkook nods, then adds something that's been stuck in his throat for days. I hate that the first cut worked on me. For a second. When I heard my voice saying, send it tonight, I heard betrayal. I heard me harming you. I felt sick. And then I got angry at myself for believing an edit over my own memory. Jimin hears it and doesn't let it hang. It worked on me too. That's why it's powerful. It's built to fit our worst stories about ourselves. Then we tell better ones, Jungkook says. We do. Jimin agrees. And we back them with the boring trail no one can argue with. Han returns with a printout he didn't want to have. Sponsors paused 3 creatives, he says. On the upside, some fans are trending a tag about manipulated audio. They're asking for calm. Jimin doesn't chase the high or the low. Good. Let the work speak when it's ready. Kim's phone buzzes with a reply. The host responded, she says, "They're willing to preserve the bucket while we get the order in place. That's rare. Someone there doesn't want to be named as the one who wiped evidence. Not everyone wants to be the villain." "So," Yeon says. "Or they want to be the one who saved their own skin," Han mutters. Either way, Kim says, "We get the bucket." They break for water and return to the table because there is nothing glamorous about process. It's lists and timestamps and emails that say, "as discussed," and spreadsheets with too many rows, and the quiet work of making a story that isn't about volume but about sequence. They assemble it like a map. Night pulls the building toward quiet, but no one leaves. Families, text, friends, ping, staff trade updates in threads that will be archived tomorrow. Min-jae writes a longer statement than anyone asked him to, one that uses words like ashamed and learned without making himself the main character. SEO drafts a timeline of contracts and flags every moment he chose speed over diligence. Han drafts a policy proposal that bans third-party room services without direct vetting by legal, a tiny reform offered like an apology. At midnight, Kim stands and delivers the only kind of monologue anyone in the room will accept. Here's where we are. We have logs that show a watch and a Bluetooth mic pairing in the annex. We demonstrated a live exploit with the Room Quiet app. We have a vendor chain from KTC to Signalcrest. We have an internal memo from Signalcrest that describes narrative manufacturing. We have evidence of cuts in the uncut audio. We have a willing witness in Min-jae. We have a manager who signed an umbrella contract and will cooperate. We have a host willing to preserve a bucket. We'll have an order in the morning. When we have the bucket, we'll have other artists' rooms, which means this is bigger than you. We'll have to decide how to handle that with care. For tonight, we secure what we can and sleep when we're able. Jungkook looks around. Sleep implies an ending. We have work left. Jimin's reply is almost a smile, but stops just shy of it. Then we rest for the work. They gather the papers, pack the devices, turn off the lights. Outside, the building's lobby is an echo chamber of late steps and security badges. There are no cameras waiting because they planned well. There's no staged exit. There's only a car and a route home, and a shared call that stays open, not for public consumption, but because quiet after fire can feel like falling. On the line, Jimin speaks softly into the dark. "Tell me your worst thought so I can fight it before it grows." Jungkook answers without drama. "That even if we prove everything, some people will never come back. Some won't," Jimin says. "But most don't need perfection. They need truth and steadiness." "And if steadiness costs us a shine?" Jungkook asks. "Then we trade shine for spine," Jimin says. "That's a better currency." They drive in companionable silence that's hard-won. Somewhere, a thread explodes with a new theory. Somewhere else, a kid finishes homework with their music playing low. The world doesn't stop for their crisis. That's almost a comfort. Morning returns, like an appointment they didn't schedule. By 9, the order is signed. By noon, the host delivers the bucket under seal. By 2, the first file lands on Kim's screen. She opens it, and everyone sees a list of room labels and timestamps long enough to make the air thinner. Jimin speaks first. "We don't leak this. We don't name rooms. We don't drag anyone else into our storm." Kim nods. "We'll isolate your file. We'll flag the architecture, not the victims." Han glances at Soyeon. "Prep messaging for when people realize this is systemic." "Message is simple, so," Yeon says. "We fix our house. We ask others to check theirs." Min-jae, who has been quiet to avoid taking space he doesn't deserve, lifts his head. "Can I be the one to demo the exploit to other producers?" "Off the record. In small rooms. So they learn before someone learns on them." Jimin considers, then nods. "That's a good use of your shame," Jungkook adds. "And a better use of your talent." They begin the real work of unspooling the tape. The exploit is obvious in their file once you know where to look. The cuts are cleaner than they should be, which makes them easier to spot. The watch pings at intervals that map to breathless captions. The mic levels jump when drama begins, and the export lines up with a social post that went live at dawn. The pattern is almost insultingly neat. The counter-narrative is tired, but it's the only one that matters. The boring truth, laid end to end. In the late afternoon, Kim closes the loop. "We'll send a summary with 3 visuals and 5 sentences. No adjectives, no heat. Just what happened, when, and by whom, according to the logs." Han, who has made a career of adjectives, doesn't argue. We'll give interviews with one line. We followed proof. So-yeon drafts a short caption. We followed proof. We fixed our process. We remain together. Jungkook reads it and nods once. That's the whole story. Jimin looks at him. It is, and it isn't. The rest is the part no one can capture with a waveform. What part? Jungkook asks. The part where we still choose each other, Jimin says. Every day, even when the world hands us a cleaner headline if we don't. Choose, the executive chair says. Crisp over speakerphone. A private admission for the record. With corrective action, or a temporary suspension while we investigate. That is the offer. Jimin is done with polite prefaces. You don't get to call that an offer. Jungkook's voice lands like a verdict. There will be no private admission for something I did not do. Counsel Kim doesn't blink. And there will be no suspension while we hold signed preservation letters and a vendor confessing to a covert capture app. The chair stays cold. You are not talking to the internet now. You are talking to the board. Perfect, Jimin says. Because the board should hear this first. Your vendor chain bought a program designed to pre-edit artists into consumable conflict. You didn't vet it. That failure belongs on the board's record, not on Jungkook's name. Another director breaks in with a voice like policy. Allegations. Artifacts, Kim replies. We demonstrated the exploit live and logged its packet to a host that delivered an evidence bucket under seal at 9:03 this morning. We have a Signal Crest internal memo describing narrative management. We have a contractor list. We have the KTC retainer and the work orders. We have 3 detected cuts in the uncut clip. We have pairing logs for a watch and a Bluetooth mic in the annex. We have a witness in producer Minjae who consented to full forensic review. The chair pauses, then shifts to leverage. What is your ask? Jimin doesn't hesitate. Terminate Signal Crest and any vendor pushing covert capture. Publicly disclose the program. Institute a transparent room protocol under legal oversight going forward. Support a neutral forensic report on our case. And stop floating suspension as a discipline mechanism for your own procurement errors. The chair tests his spine. And if we don't, then we go public with the model, Jungkook says. Not the rooms, the model. Every producer and artist in this city will know the exploit signature by sundown. A third director coughs up caution. You would burn brand relationships across the ecosystem? Jimin stays linear. We would stop a covert recording program that weaponizes trust. If brand relationships rely on that, they can burn. The call cuts to a tight tone and returns with fewer voices. The chair again. We will consider your demands. Send your artifacts to the board's outside counsel. No social posts from you for 6 hours. No, Kim replies. We keep our own autonomy. You have 90 minutes to respond. If not, we publish a neutral explainer on covert recording protocols without naming you. You will recognize yourselves anyway. The call ends without thanks. Silence crowds the room until Han speaks, tired and blunt. They're going to try to split the difference. They'll ditch the vendor, deny the program, and ask for a quiet "we all learned" line. We will not give them that, Jimin says. No, Jungkook adds. We'll give them names and dates. Minjae edges forward in his chair. Then let me give you one more name. Director Park at KTC. He ran the calming pitch. He bragged about predictive narrative and used words like containment. I can get him on a call if I pretend I want to book 2 more rooms. Kim shakes her head. No stings. We don't entrap. We don't need to, Jimin says. We just ask him to send a capabilities document. Salespeople always send a deck. Han smirks without humor. And sales decks always brag. Fine. Get the deck. Minjae fires off a brief message with a neutral line. Loved the clean support yesterday. Can you send over a product sheet for Room Quiet and the narrative package? Finance needs it. Park replies in less than a minute. Great working with you. Attaching. Kim opens the file. The room tightens on the first slide. Signal Crest, XKTC. Narrative Hygiene Solutions. Bullet phrases crowd the page. On-site device neutralization. Predictive friction mapping. Soft containment cues. Friendly capture fallback. The next slide diagrams a flow from brand brief to warm room to microclip to controlled arc. There's a box labeled Pilot Program with 3 anonymized case studies and timestamps. Underneath, average lift, +200% engagement on brand-adjacent assets. Friendly capture fallback, Jimin repeats flat. That's their euphemism for hidden audio. Kim scrolls. A legal cover page chirps about consent environment via posted signage, with a tiny line at the bottom. Signage optional if agreement is implied by entry to space. The line is footnoted with case law citations that don't fit the context at all. So they papered bad behavior with a sticker no one saw and a footnote that doesn't apply, Jungkook says. Classic. Han cuts in. The board thinks in memos and liability. They can't deny this deck. But they will try to bury the part that says brand-adjacent engagement. That's the motive. Then we say it out loud, Jimin replies. For once, we name the money. Kim closes the deck and files it into a folder marked with an ugly clarity. Model. Proof. Now we wait for the board's consideration, and we draft our neutral post in case they stall. So Jeon drafts while the others pace the flow of decision points. Her caption reads, like a clean ledger. No covert recording in creative spaces. No vendor-owned mics without legal chain of custody. Device trays controlled by the host, not third parties. Visible signage with explicit consent. Logs. Available to artists. Zero tolerance for post hoc clarifications. She pads it with a short line that will sting without gloating. This is not drama. It's basic process. Han reads it and nods once. It doesn't gloat. It doesn't accuse. It just defines the floor. Phones glitch in unison, an alert from a fan-run account that's been careful and sober through the days. The caption, producers, check your rooms. The thread explodes with engineers swapping notes on Bluetooth mics. Watch OS quirks, and ways to disable auto-pairing. None of it makes a headline. All of it matters. The board returns at minute 87. The chair sounds forced into an approximation of humility. We will terminate Signal Crest and suspend KTC pending review. We will commission an outside audit of vendor practices and publish its recommendations. We ask you not to publish your own post until the audit begins to avoid duplication and confusion. Jimin doesn't let the pivot erase the wound. And the apology to Jungkook? Silence. Then a counsel voice, not the chair, steps in. The company does not apologize to individuals in ongoing matters. Kim answers for them. Then this matter ends on our side with a public correction from you. The preliminary suggestion of a suspension for Jungkook was inappropriate given the evidence. That line, or something with the same meaning, that is acceptable, the counsel says. The chair does not speak. And one more thing, Jungkook adds. You're going to publicly state that you're eliminating any narrative management vendor and that you never authorized covert recording. You will not hide behind passive voices. We will state that we have ended relationships with vendors whose practices are inconsistent with our values, the chair replies, dodging grammar like a shield. Then add the word covert, Jimin says. Stop speaking like a foghorn, a beat. We will add covert. The call ends. No one cheers. They move to the next piece because victories without repair don't hold. Kim forwards the deck to the board's outside counsel and the preservation letters to the host again, locking the chain. So-Yeon schedules their neutral process post. Min-jae types an email to 3 producers he respects, titled, What I Learned the Hard Way. Already resigned to a year of rebuilding trust. Han writes an internal memo outlawing third-party room services, unless legal approves them in writing. And for once, he doesn't argue about phrasing. He just writes it like a rule he wishes he'd had last week. Then a new message lands in Jimin's inbox from a private address with no signature. If you stop now, I stop the next release. If you name me, I name the rooms. There is a link. Min-jae clicks through an air-gapped laptop. The file contains a list of artists and session IDs that don't belong to them. The threat is plain. Drag your peers into this, or back down. Jimin does not blink. We don't respond to extortion, he says. We announce our boundaries and we hold them. Jungkook leans closer to the screen. We also don't let someone else hold those artists hostage. Kim, can we notify a neutral guild without revealing details? Yes, Kim says. I'll send a general alert to the Producers Association and the artists' advocates. Check your rooms for covert Bluetooth pairing and watch OS auto-record features. Look for apps like Room Quiet. No names, just the exploit. Do it, Jimin says. Let the person behind this watch their leverage drain. The guild replies within an hour with a stark statement. We urge all member studios to audit space, signage, and third-party devices immediately. Covert recording violates trust and will void future collaborations. The statement is short, almost dull, and yet it's a knife where it needs to be. Good, Han says. The ground is moving. It moves again when the brand that ran the teaser issues a post of its own. We did not receive any files from Jungkook. The audio in our teaser is an original production created by our vendor using public domain textures. The language tries to be clean, but it sneaks in a quiet confession, created by our vendor. Not licensed. Created to sound like something. Jungkook reads it twice and then 3 times. So they built a sound-alike to trigger the narrative. Kim nods. Not just them. Signal Crest's memo shows they offer reconstructions to simulate relevance. It's legal if they stay outside the copyright boundary. It's poison if they aim it at relationships. Jimin is still reading the brand's statement. They used a near miss to get clicks and let us fight over the gap. That's the model. Han shrugs a shoulder. And you just broke it. Not yet, Jimin says. We need one more step. We ask the brand to publish the stems of their teaser's hook under seal to the auditor. We compare it to our work with a similarity index. We publish the number with context. We don't dunk. We just show that sounds like was weaponized. Kim sends the request to the auditor, and the brand's legal. The brand complies because they think compliance dodges rage. The stems arrive. The index lands at 0.62, close enough for a human ear to feel the echo without crossing the legal line. The auditor writes a clean sentence. The teaser appears to employ a reconstructed hook designed to evoke but not duplicate Jimin's work. Jimin's response is simple. We post the sentence. We add one line from me. Evoking someone's work to stir conflict is not creativity. It's manipulation. We close with process. We're reforming rooms, not chasing clout. They post. The reaction is mixed, as always. Some call it vindication. Some call it PR spin. Some question the math. Some say the math is the only honest part of the week. It doesn't matter. The anchor is built. When the thread cools, it will be there like a nail in a wall. The next call is the strangest yet. Ryan, the liaison, wants an in-person meeting under counsel. They book a neutral office with glass and a reception desk that keeps notes like a courtroom. She arrives with an attorney whose tie screams billable hours. Kim opens with an agenda anyone can live with. Affidavit, device, chain of command. Ryan doesn't waste time dressing it up. I'll give you an affidavit and the watch. I'll name my Signal Crest supervisor and the KTC coordinator. In exchange, I want a cooperation clause with the auditor and a letter that says I was instructed by my employer to employ practices represented as standard. Jimin's reply is almost clinical. You were not instructed to call and threaten us. Ryan meets his gaze without flinching. I was instructed to protect the product. Sometimes we protected it with messages that were not wholesome. I won't apologize for a job I did under threat of losing my livelihood in a market that punishes women who say no. Kim keeps her voice straight. We can't include context in the letter. We cannot absolve you for the call. I'm not asking for absolution, Ryan says. I'm asking for a fair record. Jungkook asks the only question that matters to him. Why this model? Ryan doesn't blink. Because it wins. Because brands chase plots. Because executives reward calm metrics more than they reward messy truth. Because someone found a way to turn your worst fears about each other into a dashboard. Jimin nods once. And because we let them, until now, they sign. The affidavit names a Signal Crest supervisor and a KTC senior coordinator that matches Park's profile. It also includes boilerplate lines about industry norms that will infuriate the board and quietly steal the auditor's pen. The watch arrives in an evidence bag. Min-jae takes it like a relic he wishes he'd never seen. The auditor releases an interim report that avoids drama like a plague. It lists devices, timestamps, contracts, and the existence of a vendor memo that used the phrase friendly capture. It concludes with a sentence crafted to be quoted in a decade. The company's vendor oversight failed to protect artists from covert recording practices deployed under euphemism. Han reads it and exhales. That sentence is going to live in slide decks for years. Good, Jimin says. Maybe it will save someone else the week we just had. They draft a final joint statement for the day. It doesn't swing at enemies or play to the stands. It says, We followed proof. We fixed our process. We remain together. We will fund an education series for producers and engineers on consent and device control. We thank those who demanded calm. It posts and it sticks, not because it's loud, but because it's useful. When the building finally thins, when staff stop hovering and legal stop circling and the inboxes stop screaming and the phones settle into regular heat instead of fire, Jimin and Jungkook sit in a quiet room that doesn't need to be described to be understood. There is nothing curated about what they say. Tell me what still hurts, Jimin says. The first 2 seconds, Jungkook answers. The ones where I believed the cut. Not because I doubted you, because I doubted me. I keep replaying it like I should have heard the splice right away. Like a reflex. You're not a machine, Jimin says. You are allowed 2 seconds. One day, I want it to be 1, Jungkook says, mouth quirking. Or none. Then we train for it, Jimin replies. We'll build our own reflex. First thought, evidence, not anxiety. Jungkook nods. And you? What hurts? That I made a rule we're honest first, and then I let a clip dictate the order of that honesty, Jimin says. I should have led with trust before verification. Not instead of, before. You did, Jungkook says. We're here. They are. And being here means doing the unglamorous maintenance that keeps the machine from owning them again. They write a checklist for their team that has no poetry, and all the power in the world. No third-party trays. Visible consent sign. Disable auto pair. Log all pairings. Legal at the door. Artist owns the room. They share it with the guild. It spreads faster than the best rumor, because it helps. Later, there is a live stream on their channel. Not a performance. A conversation. No teaser music, no pop cuts. Jimin opens with the stripped truth. This week, tried to make our bond into a story for someone else's dashboard. It failed because we didn't give it an ending to sell. Jungkook follows with the line they decided to carve into their timeline. We will not let anyone turn us into content. They take a few questions carefully selected for clarity over spice. One asks whether they'll sue. Kim answers from off camera. We will pursue remedies where the evidence supports it. We won't litigate in your chat. Another asks if they'll forgive. Jimin says, forgiveness isn't PR. It's work. We'll do it in the direction of people who choose truth. The last asks whether this changes their art. Jungkook says, it changes our rooms. The art will take care of itself. When the stream ends, the trending bar flickers and adjusts to the new signal. It shares space with other stories because the world is still bigger than any one crisis. Some people log off calmer, some don't. The ones who matter will remember the lines that mattered. Night folds without theatrics. In the corner of a quiet office, Min-jae drafts the first module of the education series. Room Control, 101. It starts with the line he wishes someone had handed him a year ago. If it isn't your mic, it isn't your room. He doesn't ask to be redeemed. He asks to be useful. Deputy Manager CO spends the evening writing a timeline that doesn't spare him. A report with highlighted entries where he chose speed over diligence. He drops it in Kim's inbox with a brief note. No excuses. Use it. Han sends a short message to his team. We will never buy calm at the price of consent again. Jimin and Jungkook sit together without agenda and talk about not talking for a while when this is over, about the luxury of being boring, of letting weeks pass without their names glued to commentary. They plan a day that belongs to no algorithm. It's not a promise to disappear. It's permission to breathe without running. Before they leave, Jimin says one last thing that doesn't need to trend to matter. We said we wouldn't let a cut tell our story. We didn't. That's the work. And we'll keep doing it, Jungkook says, even when there's nothing to fight. Especially then, Jimin answers. Read the line, Jimin says, setting the printed audit summary in the middle of the table. Out loud, so we stop pretending we don't understand it. Counsel Kim doesn't dramatize. The company's vendor oversight failed to protect artists from covert recording practices deployed under euphemism. Han exhales. There it is. Frame it. Eat it. Fix it. Jungkook points to the next paragraph. And this, read this too. King continues. Signal crest, marketed narrative hygiene, and friendly capture to brand partners through KTC Media. Internal materials show an intent to shape post-production storylines by curating microclips from private studio rooms. Jimin doesn't look away. So the model is official. Not a rumor, not a hunch, a product. Han leans forward. The board agreed to terminate Signal Crest and freeze KTC. We've got the deck, we've got the bucket, we've got the watch, we've got Ryan's affidavit, we've got Minjae. And we've got a mess, Jungkook says. Because this wasn't just them. This was us buying calm with shortcuts. Kim places her pen down, which is why we're moving to the part where we speak to regulators. Regulators? Han repeats. Yes, Kim says. Data protection, competition, labor, covert recording under a false consent environment touches all three. We can either be dragged or we can show up first. Jimin nods. We show up first. We show our house. We say what broke and what we built to fix it. Han shifts in his chair. The board will choke on the word regulator. Then give them water, Jungkook says. Because we're going. The door opens and Deputy Manager Seo walks in with a binder. He doesn't sit. I added names to the procurement timeline, he says, including mine, including the people above me. Legal has the full list. Kim takes the binder, scans, and stops. You found the original pitch. Seo nods. KTC's first email called it engagement stabilization. I flagged it as innovative risk management in the margin, and I was proud of the phrasing. I want that line on the record as mine. Jimin studies him. Why are you doing this clean? Because nothing else is, Seo says. And because every half-truth this week carved a bruise you had to carry in public. I'm not adding another one from this side of the table. Han tilts his head. You understand this might take you down. I should have been down already, Seo says. Now I'll at least fall forward. The intercom blinks. Soyeon's voice is steady. The board wants to rehearse the public correction line. We're not rehearsing grief, Jimin says. Patch them in. The speaker crackles. The chair speaks in a careful script. The preliminary suggestion of a suspension was inappropriate given emerging evidence. We regret the distress caused. Stop, Jungkook says. Say it without the word emerging. It sounds like you're waiting to see if it becomes real. The chair hesitates. The suggestion was inappropriate given the evidence. Better, Kim says. Now attach action. Terminate vendors, commission audit, implement room protocol. A different director cuts in. Legal prefers conduct an audit, less inflammatory. No, Jimin says. You commission, so you own it. A pause. We will commission an audit, the director amends. Good, Jungkook says. Now add one more line. We support Jungkook and Jimin's unified stance against covert recording and narrative manipulation. Put their names in your mouth without choking. Silence swells through the wire. Finally, the chair returns. We support Jungkook and Jimin's unified stance against covert recording and narrative manipulation, Jimin adds. The chair repeats it. Against covert recording and narrative manipulation. Now we move, Kim says. We'll coordinate regulators, finalize the vendor terminations, and schedule a press QA with the auditor. Press QA, Han repeats, wary. You want a feed?